Hello everybody, my name is Pixie People. It is 1 in the morning and I should be asleep right now, but I was on a grind on my video games, so that's why it's so late. Well, let's get right into it, I guess. Well, we come back from our story with Deku, then getting a call from Todoroki. So Deku answers the phone and talks to Todoroki, and Todoroki wants to have a talk. So he tells him to meet him at this restaurant. They go, and then Todoroki then just explains his father and his life and his childhood and how he hopes that he doesn't see him as weak or pathetic. And Todoroki just keeps talking about his childhood and how sad it was. Backstory, basically. And so Deku says, like, thank you for telling me this. Very serious information. Okay, so. Well, after that, Deku just tells Todoroki, hope to see you again, and puts his hand forward. Todoroki does shake his hand this time. And then they part ways for afterwards, with Deku thinking, maybe this could be a friend. Todoroki basically sounded like he just wanted to be acquaintances, but Deku wants to be friends. That is a cool execution, by the way. Alright, now they get into the, Deku goes to sleep. Next day, they are going to go on a field trip. It sounds fun. Deku sits next to Todoroki, and Deku just talk. Mostly just Deku and Todoroki speaking. More than nodding this time. He's actually speaking. Alright, then Deku. Well, afterwards they get off the bus, then Aizawa just tells them, do you want to know why you're here? Yes. And Aizawa just turns around slowly to fall. And then the thing collapses and then they all fall down. Deku saves himself and grabs Todoroki and Bakugo. Well, Bakugo grabs Kirishima and Todoroki grabs Ochako. Basically, Deku then makes a chain. Ochako makes Todoroki float, which in turn makes Deku float, which in turn makes Bakugo float. So they make like a blade, and then as soon as the rock creature shows up, if you're wondering how they knew the rock creature was showing up, it was lumbering towards them. And then they just immediately make a blade with Todoroki and Ochako switching places afterwards. With then Todoroki shoots a fire out, and then Kirishima makes up his blade, fist, and then they just start slap. Then they completely body the. Then they completely destroy the rock monster, the first one, and they then separate afterwards. And then Deku just puts his hand on the ground and ices all the rock creatures that show up. Eventually, they get rid of him. Still a long day for Deku. His hand is basically frozen at this point. It doesn't move that much. basically same period they were in the original timeline. And then they get there, and then Deku was about to uh, get, put his hand out to Koda, but then his hand's numb, which surprises Koda. So Koda forgets that he needs to punch him in the balls. So he gets awkward and then just walks off. And then Deku just gets confused. And then he looks at his hand, which is basically blue. And then he walks towards Todoroki, telling him to burn his hand. But Todoroki, instead of burning his hand, just puts the tiny fighter over under him. And then Deku is able to move his fist eventually. And then he gets his meal. Well, after that, Deku goes to sleep. Goes to sleep. Afterwards, after Deku wakes up, they immediately get to training. For Deku, it's just make ice, basically make an ice terrain. Basically, they tell him to make constructs of stuff. So Deku has to make sculptures and swords and shields and heads, big heads. It takes a while, but Deku gets the end of it. Later that night, they make curry and stuff. And then Deku doesn't see Koda anywhere. He doesn't know who the kid is, but he knows he doesn't see the kid. So he picks up some rice and bowl and rice and curry, and then just walks near the cliff because some guy Deku just assumes. Deku just assumes that Koda's up there. It's legit the only secret area ever. So he gets up there, sees Koda, walks over to him, sits next to Deku, Koda, then gives him the curry and rice, but Koda doesn't want any. And then Deku then Deku just makes Koda open up, basically from his aura. Koda then opens up about his family dying from heroes, and that's why he hates heroes. But Deku says, "Well, they did fight for you. It's the whole reason you're still here. Your parents." Then two of them just keep talking until a giant fist goes hurtling towards Koda, but Deku catches the fist, freezing it completely, and then tearing it off. So immediately, Muscular loses an arm. Then Koda uses the said frozen arm as a freaking baseball bat and starts whacking Muscular with it. Eventually, Muscular breaks it and then fixes his arm with a bunch of muscle. So basically, it's just a stiff muscle now. And then Muscular starts pounding at Deku to kill him because he took his arm off. So he's mad. And then Deku just keeps. Then Muscular keeps growing muscle, which is struggling for Deku because he can't. Because he can't ice him because the guy keeps bursting off the ice. Okay. And eventually, Deku, basically getting pummeled, about to die. Koda that shoots water at Muscular to tell him to stop. Then Koda just turn. Then Muscular just sprints up to Koda and then about to slam his fist into him. But Deku slides up into Muscular's guts, punching his stomach in. Like he punches so hard he actually breaks through all the muscle into Muscular's gut, which you can see an actual reaction by Muscular coughing out blood. And then Deku just completely ices him, basically like Sub-Zero. But this time, it's a fatality. So then he just freaking punches it really hard, and then Muscular completely and utterly shatters. Then Deku walks over to Koda, telling him to get on his back, and then they slide down, with Deku using an ice slide. Then Deku just freaking bowling pins Spinner and Magnemite? I think that's her name. Magnemite? Magnemite? Magnemite. I'm gonna go with Magnemite. I'm gonna go with Magnet, okay? Lesbian Magnemite. Okay. Right? Okay. I assume that's what her name is. Magnica? Magnica. We'll go with that. It doesn't even matter. Thanks to knocks her out. Not knocks her out. No, flips her out. And then Deku just throws Koda. Luckily, one of the cats catches him and then runs off into the building. And then Deku grabs Spinner and Magnema's legs and then just chucks them in the air. Then Deku just says to Aizawa that he's gonna go find his classmates. And Deku's just sprinting around the forest. First finds Tokoyami about to finding Soji, who's carrying Suyu. And then they find Tokoyami just busting up the forest. And then Deku just immediately doesn't put his hand on the ground, but makes an ice sculpture, throws it. Then Dark Shadow grabs it. That opens up Tokoyami, which Deku just throws an ice baseball at and just knocks Tokoyami out. Which subsequently knocks out Dark Shadow. Afterwards, they see Compress just jumping through the air, which Deku just immediately knows is not right. And then Deku shoots himself forward with an ice sculpture. This time it's all like just pushing him forward. He's making references with his ices. And then Deku grabs Compress, just completely popping his spine. And not in a good way. Like a freaking crunch. And then Deku just keeps... Then Compress tries to grab Deku, but Deku changes his grip to hold his hands away from him. Let's just say he knows hands are a danger. Especially since he saw... Let's just say Deku killed... Deku just knows Shigaraki probably would employ someone who had a quirk like his. And then Deku just changes his grip so fast to compress his skull and then frickin' doesn't snap it, but pops it, which makes Compress a bit um, discombobulated, to say the least. And then Deku just grabs onto Compress's chin and just starts spinning. Basically hits him with a reverse lotus and slams him into the ground, breaking Compress's mask. Not showing his face, but still breaking his mask. Then marbles roll out of Compress's pocket. A marbles. One pops out Todoroki and the other one pops out Bakugo. And then Deku just has to. Then Deku immediately puts up an ice wall to block Dobby, who just shot a massive flame towards him. So Deku just throws Bakugo and Todoroki behind a bush. But Dobby doesn't know that. He just assumes the guys are bolting. So he immediately melts down the wall. But Deku's there already, so makes a giant ice fist to slap the crap out of uh, out of Dobby. Then Deku just jumps in front of his ice fist, explodes it, which explodes Deku forward, basically as far as Dobby. And then Dobby shoots a giant ice flame at, not ice, blue fire at Deku. But Deku makes a full set of ice armor. Then it starts melting, but Deku luckily powers through it, burning himself a bit, but not as much as as he forcefully. He didn't burn himself as much as him forcefully grabbing Todoroki's hand. So he grabs Dobby's neck, knowing he has to do it, then just completely ices Dobby. I'm not even kidding, bro. Then he just tears out Dobby's spine like Sub-Zero and just chucks it. That explodes Dobby's body. Knowing damn well that guy would have definitely killed him if he didn't get that chance. Yes, I just killed Dobby. Good job, overpowered Deku. Then Dobby, then Compress and everyone else leaves, except Muscular and and Dobby, who Deku killed. Luckily, Spinner and Magnuma saved each other. Mm. Well, I guess we don't have an all for one arc, so let's run to leave things right now. See y'all. Bye bye.